Nightsounds is on the air. Hi and welcome. It's good to know that I'm speaking right now with perhaps hundreds of thousands of happy, well-adjusted people. Basically normal, whatever that may mean. You've made it through another day. It's not been perfect, but you've managed. But you know there are a lot who are not managing. The shadows of depression affect millions. Yet because of the social and spiritual stigma associated with this misunderstood malady, the Church of Jesus Christ remains largely silent. I was looking through a book the other day with the title Still Waters, Finding the Place Where God Restores Your Soul, written by Jane Rubietta, who went through this dark night of the soul called depression. She expressed some of her feelings. I'd like to relay them to you for just a moment here. Now, we're not speaking of the usual, normal mood swings that plague many of us from day to day. Describing the rather extreme mood of one who has gone through the valley of depression, quote, "I feel as though I'm being submerged underwater, the weight of the sea over my head. Deep darkness surrounds me like a cave in the belly of the earth. I weave through corridors of darkness. No feelings exist in this cave, and I prefer it this way. I don't feel love. I don't feel joy. I don't feel sexual desire. I just want to be left alone. It's a gruesome feeling. I want to cry, but no tears come. I'd love to wail, but feel too self-conscious. I don't pray to end the depression because I like not feeling. At least the negatives. I like being numb instead of angry, silent instead of ugly. In fact, I'm surprised I don't shuffle along like a lobotomy patient." The words of Jane Rubietta, whom we're quoting tonight from her book, Still Waters, speaking to the subject of depression, the silent, insidious illness of body and soul that manifests itself in the mind. And the quote we read a moment ago came from the journal, chronicling the beginning of this journey through the dark despair of depression and back into the light. Tonight's program, To the Depressed. This broad spectrum can make depression difficult to diagnose, but the estimated sufferers in the United States just of the blues and SAD, depression, are 10 and 20 million people, respectively. 25% of us will at some time in our lives experience a biochemical change in the brain that may be diagnosed as mental illness. The number of people who suffer from a serious depressive episode in any given year is roughly 10 million plus. Fewer than half of these will seek any medical treatment at all, preferring to suffer in silence rather than risk the stigma of being diagnosed with a mental illness. Many do not believe that depression is legitimate as an illness. And of course, symptoms vary. There are different levels. One woman could not stop crying and couldn't figure out why she cried. Another's depression-related panic attacks resulted in acrophobia, chaining her not only to her house, but to her bed. She went from being in control to flat on her back, unable to lift her head. At work, Her lowered productivity and difficulty with stress led to her quitting her job. Other common symptoms of depression include feeling sad, hopeless, or worthless, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, difficulty concentrating and forgetfulness, unexplained low energy or fatigue, anxiety, loss of interest or pleasure, changes in weight or appetite. The World Health Organization predicts that depression will become the second largest global health problem within the next 25 years, following only heart problems in significance. Well, this is partly because people underestimate the detrimental effects of depression and what it can have on health, because it robs its victims of joy, simple pleasures, laughter, any feelings of love. It works havoc on our work and relationships, draining families of vitality, depriving others of gifts of attention, service, or love, putting the dark cloud of depression around the self, withdrawing. The costs of depression go far beyond the personal, accounting for $43.7 billion per year, putting a burden on American economy, measured in medical costs, lost productivity, and depression-related suicide. And Mrs. Rubietta said, unfortunately, in both church and society, the widely held myths about depression keep everyone in the dark, such as Christians should not or must not get depressed if the joy of the Lord is our strength. And she says here that depression is neither a character flaw nor a sign of weak faith or unspirituality. Clinical or endogenous depression, like cancer or diabetes, is a physical problem with mental symptoms. Externally caused depression results from agents outside of ourselves, such as grief, stress, pain. And I would imagine tonight that many of you have experienced these kinds of feelings to one degree or another. I have. Yet you probably wouldn't diagnose yourself or regard yourself as clinically depressed. Maybe it's caused behavior or reaction. But you know, we needn't feel that we're less of a person because of these symptoms. As we look in the scriptures, probably one of the most loved personages of the entire scriptural account was King David, and his life pulsates with a full spectrum of feelings. He either leaps around praising God, calls down incentives on the enemy, or begs God to lift his head to restore the joy of his salvation. He was a man of extreme feelings and emotions. And the difference between David and many Christians is that he recognized and voiced his depression. This king invited God into the process of restoration, confident that with the Lord's help, the depression could deepen his faith and bring him back into God's presence. And you probably have read about Elijah. Here's a prophet whose enormous spiritual and physical workout with the false priests of Baal depleted him. And depression often sweeps in after moments of significant spiritual accomplishment. Elijah experienced this after slaying the false prophets. We can read about it in 1 Kings chapter 18. We can blame the enemy, and Satan is certainly capable of taking advantage of a these times, but research does show that there is a correlation between stressful situations and resultant slumps of energy and adrenaline, all of which increase the likelihood of depression. I have awakened in years past in panic attacks after certain kinds of dreams, and they take over. They completely captivate you. The first time I experienced this, I didn't know what it was. It was 3:15 in the morning. I had just had a dream of being locked under an ice floe. I couldn't escape, couldn't find the hole that I had fallen in. I panicked because of claustrophobia. I'd never experienced it like that, because when I awoke from this dream, it gripped me, and I felt I was actually losing my mind. My first inclination was to put on my sweats, it was the winter time, and start running. I had to do something physical or jump out the window, something. It was so horrendous. Well, I don't count myself as a mental patient, although I have high extremes of emotions. Sometimes I just get into a primal scream or something to let it out, or journal, somehow to ventilate our feelings, even after the fact, can help. Well, I'm sure there are all sorts of diagnoses and remedies. Depression knows no particular level. And tonight I hope that you can stay with us. Our program title, To the Depressed. I think of angels. I don't pray to them, but I thank God for the angelic host and their ministry to those who trust in Jesus Christ. Angels have been misrepresented, misunderstood, misquoted, certainly misused and misregarded. St. Francis de Sales said, "Make yourself familiar with the angels, and behold them frequently in spirit, for without being seen, they are present with you." Let's listen to Fernando Ortega as he sings about angels.
Jesus, King of angels, heaven's light, shine your face upon this house tonight. Let no evil come into my dreams. Light of heaven, keep me in your peace. Remind me how you made dark spirits flee, and spoke your power to the raging sea, and spoke your mercy to a sinful man. Remind me, Jesus, for this is what I am. The universe is vast beyond the stars, but you are mindful when a sparrow falls. rise to speak the goodness of your name, until I close my eyes and sleep again. The universe is vast beyond the stars, but you are mindful when a sparrow falls, and mindful of the anxious thoughts that find me, surround me, and bind me. Jesus, King of angels, heaven's light, hold my hand and keep me through this night.
Jesus, King of Angels, keep me through this night. Hernando Ortega singing for us tonight on Nightsounds. This is Bill Pearce, and we're about 19 minutes into our program format. Thank you for joining me. As I mentioned at the outset of the program, we do have a series of previously aired Nightsounds programs on the subject of depression. If you'd like to avail yourself of these, write for information. We have a special packet for you. Our mailing address is Nightsounds, Wheaton, Illinois, 60189. Tonight's program, To the Depressed. Learning about ourselves, said Jane Ribbietta, former depressive, is principal as a tool for recovery from depression. When do we have it? What brings it on? Proper nutrition becomes a vital tool in balancing our systems, as do exercise and getting enough rest and sleep. Creating a safety net of strategic friends, joining support groups, there are things we can do. Tonight's program, To the Depressed, finds us unable, of course, to exhaustively handle this. But the Word of God descends upon our hearts in its meaning. Let's listen to Psalm chapter 18, verse 16. He sent from on high. He took me. He drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from my strong enemy and from those who hated me. For they were too mighty for me. They confronted me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my stay. He brought me forth also into a broad place. He rescued me, because he delighted in me. The Lord was my stay. Thou dost light my lamp. The Lord my God illumines my darkness. Turning also to the Gospel of John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Matthew 4. The people who sat in darkness have seen a great light. And for those who sat in the region and shadow of death, light has dawned. And tonight we want to remember God's great benediction upon us who suffer, those who are depressed, those who weep, those who are in pain. The Lord our God is with you. Writer Ruth Martindale wrote in one of her poems with the question, do you sometimes feel like Jacob? Your head on a pillow of stone, with the night closing in around you, feeling so very alone. Ah, friend, remember the ladder that the Lord has put by your place. Its foot right there beside you. At the top, His radiant face. Oh, grasp tightly the ladder. Look up and follow the light. He'll ever be there, waiting, and not lose you from His sight. He'll see each faltering step and eyes with tears that brim, and reach down to firmly grasp that hand that you lift to Him. Each step will bring you closer. His form you'll surely trace. I'd like to play tonight in our closing benediction this beautiful expression from the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verse 25. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine upon you and give you peace.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine upon you, to shine upon you, and be gracious unto you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine upon you, to shine upon you, and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up the light of His countenance upon you. The Lord
Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you peace. A fitting benediction for tonight's program, To the Depressed. Music by the group called Voice Trek. I just want to take this moment as we close to thank you for listening intently. Many of you do, because you've experienced some of that of which we've been speaking tonight. And as our theme enters softly in the background once again, let's just close in a moment of prayer for each other. Heavenly Father, thank you for that which you have given in our bodies, our minds, our spirits. We feel, we sense, we hurt, we rejoice. We're just a montage of emotions and extremes sometimes. But Lord, I just pray that the power of your love and compassion will descend upon that one right now who is reaching out to you in his or her hurt and pain, that point of anxiety. Thank you for the peace that passes understanding. We just pray that that peace will descend right now in the heart and mind and feelings, soul and spirit of that one who's calling on you out of the deep darkness of depression. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much for sharing. Our mailing address is Nightsounds, Wheaton, Illinois, 60189. Till next we meet, may God, in his light and love, keep you, and a pleasant good night.